Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Learning Torah Lishma. Today we're going to be going into the psukim in Parshat Ba'alaischa. So, in the sixth aliyah, right before the seventh aliyah, those few psukim before, if you go to the pei. So, here, there's an incident that happens here, and Moshe Rabbeinu says, "La yuchal levadi lases." So hazeh, I cannot by myself carry the whole nation. It's too many. I can't do it all by myself. And Hashem is a little upset with him. That he said but at the same time, Hashem understands. And Hashem felt that Hashem knows more. He knows that he could, but it's extremely difficult. And Moshe Rabbeinu wants to make the load on him a little bit easier. And Hashem wants him to maximize his abilities. You understand? This is like, this is, it's not like when we just want to take away any responsibility. No, Moshe Rabbeinu is his responsibility for everybody all at once, and instead he wants to have tears, tears that in tears you connect to the tzaddik. Now, in truth, both, Hashem is writing what happened. You understand? He's right. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the Torah. Hashem is telling Moshe Rabbeinu to write down, and he's writing what happened, the whole back and forth. That we should. It's coming to teach us something. That in truth, right? Let's just use Hasidus as an example. Everybody should be able to talk to the Rebbe, but in practicality, when it's so many people, you need to have tiers. And if the lower tiers can't solve the issue, then it goes to the next tier, until it gets to the leader. You understand? But in a perfect world, everything would go right to the holiest, righteous man of the time. You understand? And this is a lesson. This is a big lesson to learn. Now Hashem says, now Moshe Rabbeinu, right? So Moshe Rabbeinu went and spoke to the nation the words of Hashem, that now we're going to be introducing this tier system, that everybody still is able to get to Moshe Rabbeinu, but now there's this tier system that, if possible, you should first try to go to the lower level tzaddikim and see if they could answer your problem, if they could guide you in what you need guiding, and if not, then it goes up and up until me. Of course, someone could just go to Moshe Rabbeinu also, but now there's a tier system, and people are encouraged to try to, sometimes you automatically think this is a second tier question, maybe sometimes you'll think this is a third tier question, all the way up to the, all the way to the top tier, the first tier. You understand? So this is they're creating this, and now they're creating the Sanhedrin, what's going to be later known as the Sanhedrin, the Shivim Zakein, the 70 elders. So they gathered together 70 elders from the elders of Klal Yisrael, And they stood them around the oil, right? The oil moed, the tent, the Mishkan. Vayyered Hashem ba'anan, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu came down in a cloud. Vaydaber Elav, and he spoke to him. Vayatzel min haruach asher alav, and Hashem took a bit. So Hashem is speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he took a bit of the spirit of Moshe Rabbeinu. Vayitin al shivim ish hazakanim, and he put it on the 70 elders, which means it's referring to Moshe Rabbeinu's ability to, a ruach, in the Kabbalah it talks about how when a person goes up in levels, he could connect to holy souls, and they could empower him, and that's a way that they could, Hashem gives them this, that holy souls could connect, could connect to someone's soul and enhance his abilities. And that is a way that they could, they're not a person with free will, but they could sort of connect to it, right? This is a deep Kabbalistic idea. And so this is what's happening here. Moshe Rabbeinu's ruach, the ruach part of his neshama, right? There's nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, chida. So the second level, right? The third and fourth level, the fourth and fifth, the fourth and fifth levels the highest, right? There's nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, chida. The fourth and fifth level are the highest, and each goes from nefesh to, right? The nefesh is in the blood, and the ruach is, I'm not a makubah, but it's, right? Hashem says, "Vayipach b'apa nishmas chaim." There's like a ruach that's residing in a person, and there's the neshama, which is already outside the body, but it's connected through the nefesh and the ruach, and then you have the chai yechida, that you have to be a very holy person you have to prove your holiness and your adherence to Hashem and your love of Hashem and love of Klal Yisrael and love of the Torah to be allowed to connect to your chai and yechida. You understand? So here it's telling us that the ruach part of Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama, a bit of it is connected to the Shivim Zekanim, which enhances their abilities to come out with the correct verdicts and the Ratzon Hashem, the will of Hashem. So this is what's happening. Vayhi kinach aleim haruach, and behold, when Moshe Rabbeinu's, a bit of Moshe Rabbeinu's ruach of his second tier in his makeup, which is called ruach, right? When that connects to them, vayisnablu v'lo yasafu, they started to prophesize just from getting a teeny connection to Moshe Rabbeinu's ruach. They started to prophesize, and they never ended. They never came to a moment that they stopped getting prophecy. It doesn't mean that prophecy happened all the time, but they had it throughout their whole life, that they got prophecies. This is what it says. Amazing, right? And then it says, "Vayishoru shnei anoshim b'machane." Now, from the 70 that were chosen, we would have to go into Midrashim to see exactly how that came about. But from the 70 that were chosen, there was 2 of them that were chosen, but they came and they were there when it happened, but they didn't stick around. They knew Hashem wants them to go to the Oil Moed, so they did so, and they got connected to Moshe Rabbeinu's ruach, but right afterwards they left. And Shema Echad Eldad, his name was Eldad, V'Shem Hasheni Meidad. And the second one, his name was Meidad. So Eldad and Meidad. V'Tanach Aleim HaRuach. And the Moshe Rabbeinu's ruach came upon them. That connected to them is more the correct word. V'Heime Baksuvim V'Lo Yatzu Ha'Yehela V'Yisnabu B'Machaneh. Okay, so that's what happens. Now, just to understand, well, before we go further, that Moshe Rabbeinu, why did Eldad and Medad leave? We're going to, Chazal tell us that they did this out of humility. They were people that were very humble people, and they said, yes, Hashem came, and Hashem wants this, so we'll do, we'll be there as long as Hashem says He wants us to be there. But afterwards, we're going to leave. We're not going to stick around and just take in the cover, the honor of being there and everything. We're going to be there until how much Hashem says, and then we're going to leave. They were very humble people. So that's why they left. But even though they left, they were prophesizing. Now, the way Nevuah works, prophecy works, right? There's Ruach HaKodesh, right? That's something that we have today. But Nevuah, the way Nevuah works, the way prophecy works, or in the ancient, we'll see, Nevuah was, before the word Nevuah, it seems that they use both words, but there was also, it was called a roya. Another word for a navi was called a roya, a seer, right? And this is when a person gets a direct connect to Hashem, without an angel, without something secondary. It's direct. Ruach HaKodesh is already, you can't connect directly to Hashem, but you could connect to an angel below him. You understand? Things like that. Or sometimes there might be many angels below, So what happens is when a nevuah happens, we see this in the Tanakh, that we see this when the fake Nevi'im, when they were pretending to be a prophet, and they said, this is the horn that you're going to beat them with, right? You have it in, I think it's Bab Metzia, brings down that pasuk, but it's in the Nach. There's that story. It says that they pretended to be Nevi'im, and they all said the same words at once. They rehearsed before, and they came in saying all the same words at once. So prophecy, when it comes, it just comes out of a person. You become a mouthpiece for Hashem, and it just comes out. It's not something that you control. It just comes out, and therefore there could be 50 people that are having the nevuah, and they'll all say the same thing. And that's a way to see if a nevuah is true, is if there's a few people saying it, are they all saying the same thing? Okay. So this is what happens. So they're just giving forth prophecy without them really controlling it. It just comes out. And Vayarat Nar Vayagid the Moshe, right? So the Nar, the youth, right? That's Yeshua. And he told Moshe, and he said that Eldad and Medad, these two people, they're in the camp, and they're prophesying. They're prophesizing. They're saying prophecies. And yeah, let's just see the pasuk here. Sorry, so the Yarat Sanar says Rashi, Yesh Oimim Gershon ben Moshe. They say, so there are those that say that when it says Nar, that's referring to Gershon, the son of Moshe Rabbeinu. So he came running in and he told them what Eldad and Medad were prophesying about, which we'll see in a second. And Yeshua ben Nun is next to Moshe Rabbeinu, because remember, Yeshua ben Nun, Na'ala Yomish V'Tachel, he was always around Moshe Rabbeinu, and he hears this. He was his most loyal Talmud, and he hears what Moshe's son Gershom says, and he gets up there and he says, Moshe Klein, Moshe Rabbeinu, destroy them, obliterate them, nuke them. This is what Moshe, just them, but nuke them. That completely and utterly destroy them. That's what Kalai means, to completely destroy. It could easily mean in this world, in the next world, a complete destruction. You understand? And people are wondering, why is he saying this? So the Medrash explains, this is what you see clearly, that the Torah is not here as a storybook. It's here to teach us the laws of Hashem. So it could easily leave out information about a story, because the point is not the story. The point is to teach us whatever it's trying to teach us. You understand? And but if you go to the Medrash, then it'll fill in what it's missing. As you see clearly, there's something that Yeshua ben Nun is getting very upset about, right? The person comes in, he says he runs in and doesn't say what he says, and Yeshua ben Nun gets upset. So you see clearly that the Torah doesn't specify everything. The Torah has a certain thing that it's trying to get at, and that's the focus. Everything else, it says whatever Hashem decides should be said. And the rest is in our Messiah. It's traditionally passed down. That's what we have Midrashim for. So what does the Midrash say? That Eldad and Meidad, imagine, when you're in a prophecy, you could be just like moving around, things just coming out of you. The prophecy is just coming out of you. And you could be like in a deja vu. You don't even know what's going on, and you're just walking around prophesizing. So they're just walking around prophesizing, and they're saying that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to die. He's not going to go into Eretz Yisrael. And you could just imagine, this is the worst thing that you could possibly say about Moshe Rabbeinu, right? We had Dasam and Aviram, that they decided to become arch enemies of Moshe Rabbeinu, and they were going after him with whatever they could. You understand? And even them didn't think to say something like this. This is like the worst possible thing that you could say about Moshe Rabbeinu. He's not going to go into Eretz Yisrael. They all come out of Mitzrayim to go to Eretz Yisrael, right? Who doesn't go into Eretz Yisrael? The people that sinned with the Egel Hazav. You're comparing. This is like Moshe Rabbeinu, the one who brought down the Bible, the Torah, from heaven down to earth, who made a covenant. He was the in-between person making the covenant between Hashem, God, and the people of Israel, of the Yidden, the Jews. And all of a sudden to come say that he's not going to go into Eretz Yisrael, which a lot of the mitzvahs in the Torah you could only do in Eretz Yisrael. This was such so disrespectful. This is one of the biggest disgraces of Moshe Rabbeinu that you could possibly do. A holy man, you attack him on this and that. He's above all this. But then to say that he's not going to go into Eretz Yisrael, that to a holy person, that's what he cares about. And they're coming and they're saying that he's not going to go, and they're saying it all over the camp. And you could just imagine, this is why Yeshua jumps up and he says, Moshe, obliterate them, destroy them completely. There should be nothing left of them in this world, in the next world. They should be utterly destroyed. These two people, Eldad and Meidad. This is what Yeshua ben Nun says. You can understand. Now you understand why his reaction is like this. Listen to Moshe Rabbeinu's reaction. Vayomer la Moshe, and Moshe said to him, Hamekane atoli, are you, Yeshua ben Nun, are you being jealous for me? You, Gershom, are you being jealous for me? Umi yitain kol am Hashem neviim. He says, Halavai, if only all of the nation of Israel, of the Yidden, that they would all be neviim, that they would all be prophets. Again, let's do that again. Vayom Eloi Moshe, Moshe says to him, Hamekane ateli, are you being jealous for me? Umi yitin kol am Hashem neviim. Halavai, if only Hashem would give to the whole nation of Israel, of Yidden, the power, the ability of Nevuah, because Nevuah is the most intimate way to connect to Hashem. You're talking to Hashem. Ki yitain Hashem esruche aleim. that Hashem should put His Spirit upon them. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, just to go into the Kabbalah, right? Hashem, people are going to start saying the Ruach, the Spirit, right? We already know Hashem is one. He's not split up in parts. Hashem, in His essence, is above physicality. But Hashem does have things that are robots that if the robot has 1% bechira, if it's not 100% controlled by Hashem, meaning if Hashem gives it any percentage of free will, then it doesn't represent Hashem 100%. But when something represents Hashem 100%, then that's considered a robot of Hashem, and sometimes it could be referred to as Hashem because it's His personal 100% robot. But we're not saying that this is Hashem. We understand that Hashem is above this, but He needs to use something physical to get a message to us. You understand? So, but even that which He's using, right, is not Him. You understand? But if it's something that Hashem gave zero bechira, even an angels have a slight amount of bechira. You understand? Most things in creation, almost everything has slight amounts of bechira, and that's how Hashem differentiates it from Him. But the few things that the Shechina, the Ruchai, the few things that when Hashem wants to interact with us, Hashem made a few things that represent Him 100%. And therefore, we refer to that as Hashem's, where Hashem is sending His Ratzon, His will through, and we understand that we're connecting to His Ruach, to His Shechina. We're connecting to that to connect to Hashem, which is above physicality. You understand? To connect to that. And in that scenario, when you understand the shalshelis, the order and how things work, then that's okay. But if, let's say, you took an angel and you wanted to say that the angel is Hashem, or let's say you took a tzaddik and you wanted to say that you're connecting 100% to Hashem through the angel, through the tzaddik, that's incorrect. Why? Because the tzaddik and the angel have free will, and therefore, to say that you're connecting 100% to Hashem through that is incorrect. You understand? So, the only way to connect to Hashem 100% is through those proxies that have zero free will. And right here, the pasuk is saying that there's some type of rucha that Hashem uses. There's a robot that's called rucha that does 100% exactly the will of Hashem. There is zero bechira. There's something called Shechina, right? We have different names of Hashem. And, if you go into the Kabbalah, you understand what each one is teaching you. It's teaching you different lessons that Hashem has these different names to teach you different lessons, right? God is not like us, that we barely manage to teach someone one lesson. Hashem is teaching us different lessons, right? And Hashem even says the word shalom, peace. Hashem is called shalom, peace. You understand? So if you're referring to the word shalom, but in Hashem's type of peace, then that can also be 100% connection. So this is important. And this is also disproves people that want to say that a person or an angel, that you could only connect to Hashem through the tzaddik. It's the same thing as saying you could only connect to Hashem through the angel. This is This is kfira, because the angel, the tzaddik, you cannot connect to Hashem 100% through them, because they have free will. But the only way to connect to Hashem is connecting to what Hashem says has no bechira and reflects exactly what I want. And that's, let's say, the name Yud Kei Vav Kei Elokim when you're referring to Hashem, Shalom when it's referring to Hashem, Ruchai when it's referring to Hashem. Okay, then that's a direct connection to Hashem. You understand that Hashem is reflecting, there is reflected 100% the will of God, the Ratzon Hashem, 100%. Then that you're using that to connect to Hashem 100%. But anything else is called a person, it's called an angel. Those words are there because you cannot connect to Hashem like you would if you're connecting to Hashem, whether it's Yud Kei Vav Kei, Midas Rachamim. Sometimes a person is connecting to Hashem through Elokim, through Gvura, through Midas Adin. You understand? Different things. Sometimes a person is connecting to Hashem through Shalom, right? But the essence word of Adam, of man, of a person, is that he has free will, and therefore, now this is important to know. There's two things. First of all, he has free will, and second of all, even if he, right, there are certain tzaddikim, let's say Moshe Rabbeinu, certain tzaddikim that at a certain point they got to such a level that Hashem, they had no more free will. There was nothing else that they would do except Ratzon Hashem. You understand? Moshe Rabbeinu from his whole life made 3 mistakes. You understand? That means that 99.999999999% of the time he was in sync with Hashem. Even so, that is not considered, that is considered man. Even if you made 0 mistakes, the fact that you have the possibility to make mistake, that option is given to you, even if you remove it from yourself, that separates you from you being 100%, meaning that you learn from that person 100%. You learn, but you go to the Torah, you go to the word of Hashem, you go to the Torah, you go to the Bible, you go to the word of Hashem, and that's how that is how you connect to Hashem. We're talking about deep things. I hope I explained it well. Maybe listen to a few times to understand it. But just again to say it in short, because this is a very big idea. To connect when we say Hashem, right? The Yud Kei Vav Kei, we say Elokim, right? When we say Kel, right here the pasuk it says Yud Kei Vav Kei and it says Ruchai. It's using, right, because it's referring to different attributes and how Hashem works in this world. Hashem made this world work in justice. And he gave on this earth the ability for people, if they choose to go against justice, but once they get to the next world, it's only justice. And when Mashiach comes, then justice will reign 100% on this world as well. So this is major. This is major. So again, anything that had any level of bechira, even if presently it doesn't, and anything certainly that has any level of bechira at the moment, could never be considered 100% robot of Hashem. And what's the difference? When we connect to Hashem, we connect through the robot because Hashem, there is no words, there is nothing that our mind could comprehend that could be Hashem, because Hashem is above all matter. So how do you connect to Hashem? You think of Hashem as peace. You think of Hashem as being the ultimate judge. You think of Hashem as being full of mercy. You understand? This is how we're able to connect to Hashem. But when we say connect to Hashem, that's only something that is 100% a robot, that has zero free will. And those are, and that's what Hashem tells us. That's we have these different names, that each thing means something else. Sometimes we're connecting to Hashem through peace. Sometimes we're connecting through Hashem through judgment. We want judgment. We're looking for Hashem to do judgment. You know, sometimes we're connecting to Hashem through mercy, or we want Hashem to bring mercy down. You understand? Different things. You have to go into the Kabbalah to understand each thing in its all its depth. But only that is what we say connecting to Hashem. It's a robot. It's not Hashem. But you're using that that thing that has zero free will, that just does exactly. It doesn't even have thought. It just moves and does exactly what Hashem says to do. We're using that to connect to Hashem. But anything that either once upon at any point had free will, or presently has free will at any level or degree, that is not how we connect to Hashem. We could be energized by them, like we see in the Pasuk. The Pasuk is teaching us everything here, right? Hashem says He put a little bit of Moshe Rabbeinu's ruach, of the 5 parts of the soul. He put a little bit of Moshe Rabbeinu's ruach upon them, and that energized them. It made them prophets. But it doesn't say. But that's just energizing. But when you're connecting to Hashem, it's only to Hashem. Nothing that has free will or that ever had free will. You understand? That is the key here. That is the key. Now, how do you do that? So in Yiddishkeit, we have a Torah and it teaches us. There's Yud Kei Vav Kei, there's Elokim. Each thing means something. There's Shakai, there's Kel. Each thing means something. And depending on what you're trying to accomplish is how you you're going to be using a different Shem Hashem. If you go into the Kabbalah, there's a lot of Shemus of Hashem. You understand? And that is what's happening here. You literally see it in the pasuk. The tzaddik, to say that you could only connect to Hashem through the tzaddik, that is avodah zarah. That is avodah zarah. What you could say is that the tzaddik could help energize you to connect to Hashem. That's what we see here. This is so important. Right in the psukim, right here. It's like we have to learn how to learn Chumash, a little deeper. All our questions they're all answered right in the simple text. Maybe that's why it doesn't go off on a tangent and say, everything that's happening in the story, because it's trying to teach you this lesson of how it works. How do you connect to Hashem? You connect to Hashem only through things that have zero free will and never ever had a moment of free will. And that, you have to know that is Hashem's 100% robot that just moves, and anything it does, it's only moving because Hashem is moving it. That's it. And through that, you're connecting. Because if you're not, let's say, connecting to Hashem with the idea of kindness, then how are you going to connect to Him? You need to have an idea. It needs to be something. You understand? So this is, right? Hashem says, Olam Chesed Bana. He says the foundation of how you connect to me and how I do everything on this world is kindness. You understand? So that's right. There were Nevi'im that said to Hashem, so just punish them, and Hashem got upset. Why? Because even when there needs to be din, judgment, it's supposed you try to put as much rachamim, as much mercy as you can in it. You pray to Hashem that He should do it in the most, He should put in as much mercy as He can, even though He has to judge them. You understand? This is tremendous what's happening here. Now, getting back to the pasuk. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Kitin Hashem es rucha eleim. Halavai that Hashem would put His spirit upon them, which is the ability to have nevuah. When you're connected to Hashem's ruach, then you're able now to talk to Hashem and get a direct answer. There's something called ruach, which Hashem created with it, that it never had free will and it never will have free will. It's something that it whatever it does, it's exactly in sync with what Hashem wants it to do. It only moves if Hashem wants it to move. It only does if Hashem wants it to do. You understand? That's a way that a human being could get an answer to his question. Moshe Rabbeinu had it, and Moshe Rabbeinu here is saying, I know that there was the 70 Zakanim that now got this connection through Hashem, through being energized by Moshe Rabbeinu's ruach. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, Halavai, all of Klal Yisrael should get it. Halavai, all of Klal Yisrael should have that. Isn't that amazing? Moshe Rabbeinu here is being told the worst thing possible. And I'm guessing he knows, but maybe Hashem didn't tell him yet that those people are actually from the Shivim Zakanim. You understand? Because you could easily see maybe Dasav and Aviram paid someone off to do something like this. You understand? So Moshe Rabbeinu probably does know. Probably Hashem did tell him, but maybe Hashem didn't tell him, so that he should have. So we could see who Moshe Rabbeinu is. That even though there's also a good chance that he didn't know. We see his response. He doesn't. When it comes to him perfecting himself, not including someone else, he tries to do the best. But once it's someone else, his focus is the other person. The other person is first, second is him. This is a big essay that we talk about. A true Eved Hashem, once someone else is in the picture, the other person comes first. You come second. You're not nothing. You have to make sure to keep yourself safe. You have to take care of yourself, keep yourself healthy, keep yourself emotionally healthy. Make sure you're learning God's holy works, absolutely. Right? Second doesn't mean you're nothing. You're a lot. But when someone else is in the picture, you put them first. This is what Moshe Rabbeinu is teaching us here. And once there was someone else involved, right? There was two other people claiming to have prophecy, saying that Moshe Rabbeinu wouldn't go in. There's now someone else involved. Moshe Rabbeinu says, right, at the moment, I don't know if it's true, if it's not true, but I hope it's true, because that means that they have prophecy, and hopefully everybody should just get prophecy. I don't care if they're gonna say, reveal to me a truth that's gonna hurt me a lot. what I think about is the fact that they connect to Hashem on the deepest level. That's all Moshe Rabbeinu could think about. That's a leader. Just to understand Moshe Rabbeinu's greatness. If anybody in his foolish mind thinks that he's anything like Moshe Rabbeinu, that he's anywhere close to his level, they're fooling themselves. Now, I know people are going to bring down the Rambam, that anybody could be even like Moshe Rabbeinu. There it's talking about your, right? Because we're not in that same position as Moshe Rabbeinu. We're like light years away. But the effort and what we put in, it can be equal to what to that effort of Moshe Rabbeinu. So in effort you might be equal, probably not. My guess, probably almost nobody is ever going to be close to Moshe Rabbeinu's effort. You know, understand? That's probably, anybody that thinks he's fooling himself. But the Rambam, he's someone that says the truth, and he says it's possible that effort-wise you could do the same according to what your abilities are. Absolutely. But to come and say that the level that what Moshe Rabbeinu reached, that you could ever get there, that's completely out of your league. You have to understand that. People saying all these weird things, that there's no Yeridas Hadayrus when it comes to the tzaddik, just such nonsense. If there's the one thing you could count on, right, is that there is Yeridas Hadayrus. That's the one thing you could count on, that there is Yeridas Hadayrus. You understand? That as time goes on, people's levels go lower. That's a given. Anybody that thinks otherwise is foolish. Even amongst the great people, the great holy people, as time goes on, 100 years pass, you can never compare to, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years, 1,000 years. You can never compare to the tzaddikim before that in what they reached. Effort could be the same. That's what the Rambam's telling you. Amazing. And let's be honest, even effort-wise, probably very far. Very, very far. Not hopefully we could reach effort-wise 10% of Moshe Rabbeinu, of the tzaddikim of old. Let's not kid ourselves. So this is what we're learning. This is tremendous. This is what we could learn from Parshas Behalaischa. Such deep levels, such important levels for life. It's a changer. It's a life changer to learn the Torah and really get the message that Hashem is trying to teach us. And here a little bit, we're able to get a little bit of the message of that Hashem is trying to teach us here. This is tremendous. This is tremendous. This is tremendous. I love you, and Hashem loves you more.